Welcome to the 111 Approach podcast, your go-to space for deep thoughts, real talk, and exploration of everything from spirituality to self-development and the mysteries of life with some light-hearted humour along the way. I'm your host, Lakshmi, aka the 1 Minute Healer, and each episode will dive into different topics, sometimes personal, sometimes thought-provoking, but always authentic. So whether you're here for some new perspectives, inspiration, or just a fresh take on the world with a bit of randomness thrown into the mix, you're definitely in the right place. So what are you waiting for? Let's get into it. Hi, it's Lakshmi here, and before we start this week's episode, I need your help. Next year, I am taking on the biggest charity challenge I've ever done. Now, for those of you who know me well, you know I love to do things for charity ever since I was a child, from sponsored dance-a-thons, sponsored silences. Yes, I know, hard to believe me being quiet, right? Sponsored abseilings down buildings, and last year, even sleeping out on the streets of London in the middle of October in just a sleeping bag. I really try and push and immerse myself in things to raise money for good causes. And next year, I am climbing Mount Kilimanjaro for not one, but two amazing children's charities. Cordwell Children, who help disabled and autistic children all over the world, and Cordwell Youth, who empower at-risk adults aged 11 to 24. Now, this is the biggest challenge I've ever taken on because, number one, the target I need to hit is the biggest one to date. I need to raise £5,000, all of which goes to the charities, because actually the trip and expedition itself is self-funded. But hey, if you're a business and would like to sponsor that side of it, please get in touch with me. And number two, I've never climbed a mountain in my life. Although I did make up my mind at age 5 that I did find a mountain in Canada and claimed it as my own. But that's a story for another day. So please, if you are able to make a donation, no matter how big or small, it will really help me reach that target. And I will be forever grateful to you, as will the children who the money will go to. So thank you again. The link will be in the show notes below, and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the 111 Approach podcast with me, the 1 Minute Healer. And I have got somebody very, very cool. He's like, I think I'm cool, yeah. But when I sit next to him, like, I'm not that cool. Anyway, before I introduce my esteemed guest here, who's actually live in the flesh and is next to me right now, I always start and end my episodes with gratitude because it is the single-handedly most powerful energy on this planet. People say love is powerful. Love ain't shit next to gratitude, I'm telling you now, because guess what? If you're grateful for something, you already love it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be grateful for it. But we'll go deep into that in maybe another episode. Thank you so much for everyone who has continued to support the podcast. I'm high-key so proud of it because I love it so much. And I know it's not like #1 rated on Apple or whatever, but you know what? I don't care. I honestly don't care. And I say that with all my heart because I love creating this podcast and it's like my little outlet. But today I have the infamous an actual movie star and TV star as well. Why are you laughing?
I mean, because it's all perspective, it's all relative.
But you've been on TV.
What a star is, there's connotations to it, there's meaning behind. But I let you go. You're in flow.
No, but you've been on TV.
That's true.
And you've been in a movie.
That's true.
So how are you not a TV and movie star?
I should shine and embrace it, right?
Exactly.
I'm learning. I'm healing.
Celebrity.
No. So yes, I appreciate you like me. So yes, I was once an actor, TV presenter, and I was before that also
music artist.
Yes. So
yeah, for both threat, music, TV, and
radio as well.
Radio. Oh my gosh.
Radio,
all the threats.
Radio.
To be fair, we'll get into that in a bit. But I haven't even introduced your names.
I was loving the intro. So I'm saying, you go.
So anyway, it is. I don't even know your full name yet, but we're going to talk about this. Okay, yes, so I've just literally about 20 minutes ago found out that he's got 2 other names. I don't know the third name. But
sounds ominous, yeah.
Yeah, he's like that Prince when he just changed his name to a symbol. Amazing, isn't it? That Prince was so ahead of his time. Love him. Anyway, it is the infamous Inayat Hussein Kanji.
I love it. She remembered it. Thank you very much.
I mean, you only told me about 20 minutes ago, innit?
It's good memory. Good
I'm not Dory. Fucking hell.
She's present. Yeah, appreciate you. Yeah, so people know me as Coach Kanji nowadays because I'm saying like I worked as a performing artist before. Now I work as a life coach. So as a life coach and as a therapist. essentially.
Yes.
And so
The Rapist. Oh my God, I should say that. Let me just explain. It's because at one point last year, I was with my ex. We were watching something and it had subtitles and they were talking about a therapist. And then he said it. Every time I see the word therapist, I see it as the rapist. And I was like, oh my God. And that's why I stopped calling myself a therapist last year. I was like, I am a wellness specialist and a Reiki master, not a therapist. But yeah, sorry, I jest. He's definitely not a rapist. Are you?
No, most definitely not. Most definitely
good.
not. I don't know why we're making confessions of this nature, but definitely not. That in itself, it feels incriminating. But yes, it's funny though. The words have meaning, right? And that's why we're discussing before the podcast, like about names. And as I was saying, people call me Coach Kanji now. But in essence, my actual name is Inayat Hussein. My surname is Kanji. There are other names in between, which are my parents, my father's, and my grandfather's names. But that's my name.
So what's your full name?
Oh no, you're going there now.
Yeah,
Right.
come on.
So this is what we used to say when we were younger. Ready?
Take a deep breath.
Inayat Hussein Muhammad Hassan Ali Dala Kanji.
My God, can I just say, that was so beautiful. That actually sounded like poetry. I'm not even taking the piss.
Bless.
When you said that and you pronounced it in such that way, like we haven't anglicised it, I literally got a chill down my spine. It was like poetry. I promise you. And I know we were just joking about stuff, but I go, we're serious now. That was beautiful.
Appreciate it. Well, as I say, it's like just the lineage of my father's side, really, and you can add to it. I know further ones which we used to joke about, but I don't know how authentic they are. But but again, so that's what we used to say is our full name, but government be known. It is Inayat Hussein Kanji. Yeah, so I work as a life coach. That's what, like you were mentioning, terminology is interesting. It's important because I used to be a teacher as well, right? I've had many lifetimes. We'll talk about that. Karma, the cycles, right? And within it, I was working with special educational needs and many other things, young people with behavioural issues. Then went and segued into like youth work, and thus I was working in more pastoral areas with young people and their families. So it all has a journey and a narrative. And then I went back into performing arts. And then thereafter, I started working for a charity whilst I was working in television, and started having opportunities to make documentaries. And in doing that, started working around, again, social issues. And in making these documentaries about the homeless and many other things, I then looked inward because of my own personal journey, what's going on for me. And all these stories and experiences are coming together. And then I made this series called On the Level, which kind of explored all my trauma because of what was going on in my personal life. So, just fast forwarding, all these different careers and experiences then segued at some point into me wanting to become a therapist, right? But then we joke, therapist, what is therapy? The rapist of the mind. So, yeah, right? But we joke about it, but there is some truth in some form and ways, in my personal opinion, only in the way that it's delivered in the modern context. But obviously, the word therapy in its true nature, in its origin, is one which is beneficial, right? But we joke because now the modern term therapist has a connotation. So even for me, I was like, I don't want to be seen as a clinical therapist because I find it too reductionist and too compartmentalized, right? I want to be seen as really an emotional coach because that's what I'm doing. I'm teaching the process of that, and I'm doing it through ample methodologies: the artistic, the mental, the physical, the life-based, and the educational. Because I was a teacher, because I run a martial arts school, because I'm a sports person, because I was a performing artist, I can do art therapy. Because I've become a hypnotherapist and I do CBT, NLP, etc., I can do the mental therapy. So it came back together quite organically after years of a career of bouncing around in different directions, exploring myself and what I wanted to do for my own intuitive needs, right? If that makes sense. Sometimes I did it thinking I'm doing it just because I'm rebelling against myself and I can't maybe handle the environments. But again, this is about acceptance and knowing yourself and knowing you're not necessarily suited for that environment, right? I was trying to work as a teacher in a system which I found was broken, and I felt that I didn't fit, and I feel not a good teacher, but the kids think I'm amazing, but the staff don't, like, and all these conflict issues within myself that made me just leave, kind of impulsively, but then starting a new journey where I became an actor.
When did you get into each little segment? Because you've done a lot, and you've led a very colourful, fulfilled life, spontaneous, and I feel like that's made you one of the most interesting people that I've ever come to know. And I'm very grateful to
Bless you.
also call you a friend.
Why are you hesitating? I was going to say, I was going to say, like, in between us, like, yeah, therapy friends. Like, no,
because we met, just to backtrack, listeners, we met through networking, as I do most of my people now. But, you know, there's very few people that you meet when you network as much as I do, that then actually make that transition to become part of your tribe and your, you know, like I say, I've got friends, but I've got my vibe tribe, and you are one of those vibe tribers, because, you know, I feel like there's that soul connection. And I mean, just when I started finding out a bit more about your background and what you've been through, like, it just was so eye-opening for me, because I felt like, wow. I jested and said, I don't feel like I'm cool next to you. It's not that. It's like you've had such incredible experiences, both very harrowing and traumatizing, but also the way you have transmuted that now, and A, you're helping others, but B, the way you carry yourself, the way you have such deep insight. And I love the chats that we have. We go really deep into uncovering what society has put on us, religion, family, culture. It just, I am in awe of you, and I'm so happy that you're here.
Bless you. Oh, that's so kind. That is one of the nicest things I've heard in a long time. And I needed that because it's interesting. We all have our wounds, we all have our issues, and I strangely just a thought's popped into my mind, so I'll share it. Like a client of mine passed away yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, so let's see if we can give prayers for a moment for him.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, bless him. You know, he was suffering from alcoholism, and then you know my story. They're all different poisons, symptomatic of just a void within yourself, and a momentary way to escape and cope through the day-to-day grind, because they find it hard, right? Their pain and their trauma. And so in the end, it got him. And obviously, I'd worked with him, but I can't heal everyone because we have to heal ourselves. And obviously, the little boy within me was thinking, the people pleaser and the healer within me, and wanting to make everything right came out. And I was like, what did I do wrong? The guilt mixed with the sadness. So, you know, we're all healing. But I've learned a lot through your friendship, through the experience of knowing you, through doing work with you. I'm here today to do some Reiki with you, right? Because it's all an exploration of the self. And I think what I've benefited from, what I've been lucky to benefit from in one strange way, but it's also been tumultuous, is that there was always a little rebel voice inside me that questioned. Maybe it is because of the hypervigilance of the trauma so early that made me say, why? But why? But why? And not just accept. So in doing so, sometimes it came in utter defiance, sometimes it came in conflict, because, you know, obviously in family structures, parents' desires, all sorts of other things, society, you know, you're actually going against the grain a lot of the time, and there's a lot of uncertainty in every area. Lots of decisions are made impulsively, you know, without even thinking them through really, whether it was in a rage or whether it was out of, like I say, rebellion. But strangely, they've come together now to create such a beautiful story. But at the time, it felt like, when you're in the movie and it's the worst scene, because you make choices which sometimes selfish, detrimental, harming to oneself. At the same time, like I say, sometimes brave, courageous, against the grain. But they're all decisions that I now own and claim, because I see the bird's eye view of this a little bit more. And though I'm only 40, it's becoming a bit more clear in the work I do each day and the things that I've, like you say, I've experienced. It brings insight to the human condition, and I can help people because I kind of live lots of different lives in a weird way in the exploration myself, because people get kind of trapped in a cycle, right? And then they don't learn these different parts of them. I argue that it's within everyone. That's when we know, when I do like art therapy and expression, right? Because there's many points in my life I wasn't like this. I never did drama. How to become a performing artist. This is another thing. It's interesting. I could even go into that area, right? As a youngster, definitions and limitations. My brother was a sportsman. I was the academic. Reducing it quickly. That's what my parents kind of like, he's the sports person, you're the academic. So just there, straight away, in wanting to be accepted, you're like, what? Even though you're being accepted in some way, I was like, but why can't I be the sportsman? And you don't like the feeling of being left out when you're not getting picked and stuff. So something within me just had a little more of a fighting nature. If I'm told something I can't do, I'll explore it.
Same.
Does it make sense? You start appreciating yourself because you appreciate the journey more, right? Like you being in science first and now doing this, right? You just have a different understanding, a uniqueness to your knowledge and experience, right? Because it's your story. And then so you start accepting every part of your story as, that was beautiful because it was hard, but I've learned this lesson, right? And so yeah, so like all this trauma stuff we talk about, hypervigilance and whatnot. I think yeah, even the emotional framing of it. When you start healing, you start to realize that okay, yes, we don't hope for anyone to go through it, but when one does, if they have support, if they have the fight within them, it's interesting. I got put in martial arts as a kid. I lean on that a lot, right? Because there was lessons I learned within it that when I was going through withdrawal and like addiction issues and stuff, and I was talking earlier about, this client of mine who passed away. How did I get out of it? I leaned on that a lot because I didn't have the emotional understanding yet, but it was very physiological for me. And I was just like, why is my mind talking to me like this? Why does it always want to? And you go through the physical pain, come out of it, and you still want to relapse and go through all the physical pain again, and you couldn't get a hold of it. And that emotional journey was a lot longer to understand. But all of these things contributed to the fact of why I do what I do today and why I was called Inayat Coach Kanji. And I have this business called Ample Therapy, whereby I deliver 5 different kind of areas, if you like, of therapeutic coaching.
Yeah, definitely. And we are going to, like I said, go in and do a deep dive in each of those sections as a little mini series, which will be amazing. But just backtracking first, there's a few things I wanted to highlight, and maybe we can just talk about on this intro episode to the weird and wonderful, transformative world that is Coach Kanji. The first thing I wanted to go into a little bit, and you did touch on that, is like obviously really, really sorry to hear about your client. And I'm so grateful that you were just so open and honest about how you felt as his coach, therapist, whatever you want to call it, guide, mentor. Because I had a client who also passed. This was during COVID. And although I wasn't actively doing her healing at the time, she obviously had had a few here and there. And back then, I wasn't really advocating for regular sessions for people. I thought, oh yeah, have one and that's it. You just come to me when you need to come to me.
It's a similar story, but you're going to go and continue.
And now, after doing this work for, like, that was 5 years ago, now I see actually it's so important to do regular work on yourself. Very few things. I don't think there's actually one thing in this whole planet that if you just do it once, it's going to change your life. You have to upkeep, even when you get to, so quote unquote, like enlightenment. You still have to maintain it, right? There's always maintenance. Please, listeners, if you can think of one thing to do with anything, whether it's a physical or mental, emotional, spiritual, anything that is just, it's a one-time fix. I'm struggling to think of one, but that's why maintenance and regular upkeep of whatever it is really important.
It's funny, in you speaking your thoughts, catalyzed the thought within me that, as you mentioned, the nature of this therapy and even learning life lessons, sometimes a penny drops. You know that saying? The penny
Yeah.
drops, right?
Why
And
isn't it a pound?
it's a whole nother tangent.
Sorry, go
But
on.
no, it's a great one though. If we had time, we would explore. But the penny drops for somebody, let's say, and they put it down to the activity they've just done in that immediate moment,
Yeah,
and so they think it's the quick fix. Oh, that
yeah,
worked,
yeah,
right? When it could be a cumulative nature of understanding over years and years that has allowed you get to this opening where now it's absorbed everything properly, right? And so, as you say, to me, everything is steady stacking. It's funny, I became a rapid transformational therapist. I chose a specific type of like investigative hypnotherapy to do, right? And it called rapid because you like to tell people that you can fix within a few sessions. And I've seen an array of everything. People who, within one session, arguably are rapidly transformed. And then others who it takes a lot longer. And then I started questioning, does this really do as it says on the tin then, right? But again, that was a learning curve for me that, like you just mentioned, you realize more and more and more in life, there's nothing which is an instant fix because this is about your journey. Your journey is the sequence of life lessons. And so to say which lesson created your ability to pass an exam, how do you choose that? Was it the revision lesson? Was it the first lesson? Was it a middle lesson where you loved it and you smashed it? Was it another lesson where you weren't paying attention? Do you get my point, right?
yeah. The thing is, we're always absorbing everything all the time. That's why they say thoughts are so powerful, because your brain filters out 99% of the stuff that you are seeing. Like, we look around this room, there's so much stuff. I'm not a hoarder, but like I'm quite minimalist. But like, like, but literally, like, there's just so much to take in. And this is what's called the reticular activating system. Your brain filters out all the non-relevant stuff. So this is why when you decide, okay, I'm gonna maybe buy a car, what should I get? Should I get BMW white one, or should I get black Mercedes? We're bougie here, innit? Why, when you start thinking about those two cars, or even just a car that you might be interested in buying, you start seeing them everywhere. You start seeing them everywhere, like, damn, I never noticed how many white BMWs there are around. It's because it's not that they've just suddenly appeared and you're not Harry Potter and you've just manifested it. What manifestation is actually you telling your brain, your reticular activating system, that this is what I want to focus on. So then your brain's like, right, she's asked, if she's thinking about a white BMW, let's just show her evidence that it's there. So now your brain is just looking out for white BMWs, and you'll start seeing it anywhere. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, no, I describe to myself like frequencies, and you tune in, like everything of radio. Yeah, just the old school, tapes, right? The way we used to appreciate the lack of technology and the effort that had to go into
patience.
I was talking about getting the biro out and like having to
Rewinding
fix
it
and
back
rewind it because my
up.
tape was old and it was broken, right?
And then putting a little sellotape over the bit where if you wanted to record over it, otherwise you couldn't record. And you know how much piracy was going on that day? We used to record songs from the radio, and then you'd stand by it and then have to quickly press stop just so they didn't get the guys talking, and you're like, shit. BBC or whatever.
But that's funny though, because what you learn, like within your own small journey, is you start having appreciation for the previous journeys before you. And again, like we say, technology. Let's say life is moving fast; it's changing all the time. I think back to our simplicity, and then I think back to my parents. Their experiences of simplicity, and what did it have for them in terms of life lessons, and why is it that they are kind of different creatures to me in their expression of their human consciousness and who they are? It's because of this nature nurture environment influence, right?
And also with what knowledge that they had to their hands, we have so much information, and the next generation, they've just grown up with information just always there at a click of a button, at a few types on the laptop, and there you go. Google gives us everything we need, whereas we would have to go to a library. We wouldn't have, and there would be books that weren't
available.
Concepts, concepts that are concepts that are not even being discussed. How would you get that information? You wouldn't. So although when you do go to therapy and your counselling and all these things, they always trace it back to your childhood, your parents and things. And then a lot of people are, it's my parents' fault. It's not about blaming. It's about just having that awareness, but then also having that awareness that they were living in a different time. And so you've got to do a lot of forgiveness work. I'm still going through a lot of forgiveness work. And I don't think it will ever stop. I don't think you can ever stop forgiving, healing, growing and expanding. And once you get to terms with that, because people, like you say, they're looking for a quick fix, or they're looking to be fixed permanently. That's never going to happen. That will happen when you're dead. And even then, it will still carry on because your soul is ever expansive. When, I think me and you can both relate to this, because both of our offerings and services do cater for people who want quite instant results. And you do get that, right? But there's an importance of understanding. Just a client I had today, I had to explain. He was like, oh, but I've started seeing this chakra color now, and that's all I want to see. And I'm like, you do realize you need to have all of your chakras open, like you see all the colors, and that's a good sign, because there's not one better than the other. I was like, what part of your body is the best? Is there a part of your body that's better than another part of the body?
No, so it's holistic.
It all works in alignment. And you might not like, oh, I don't like my nose, but I bloody still want it attached to my body. There's no part of the body that can do what the nose can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have to get out this idea of one thing's better than the other, one therapy is better than this therapy. It might be for you, but for someone else, it might be completely different. And I love how you touched upon the fact that there's that penny drop moment for some people, and I have that all the time when people come to me, oh, I've tried Reiki before, I've tried this before, but yours is like amazing, it's different. I was like, yes, it is different, but it doesn't mean that all of the other stuff that you didn't work. So when they say, "Oh, it didn't work for me," I'm like, "Oh, that practitioner must have been that practitioner," and I always put it to bed. I'm like, "No, it wasn't their practitioner. It definitely still worked, but it might have been so subtle because you had so many blocks at the time that you didn't perceive it to have worked." We're always looking for that dopamine hit or that massive change. I have clients now, regular clients, and they've been doing this work with me and they have their sessions. And I remember one of them said, "Oh, I don't think it was as powerful this time round." I went, "What do you mean it wasn't as powerful?" Because, "Oh, can you do what you did the first time?" Because that felt amazing. I had to say to him, I was like, "But where you were when you first came to me, the amount of heaviness and blocks you were carrying around, of course, when I shifted them, you felt something completely different. You felt lighter. You felt like, oh my God, I've been carrying that around. I didn't even know." And I said, "But the thing is, you've done the right thing. Started having regular sessions. He was having one a week at the beginning because he was like, I want to feel like this all the time. But then, as obviously that heaviness, he didn't have to carry it around as much, and the blocks we were working on it, so the blocks didn't get to be as big of a block for him. He then was like, "Oh, I can have it like once a month. That's fine." But then now I had to call him out on it. I was like, "You're chasing a dopamine hit. You're chasing this feeling of, I just want to feel like a shift. Do you not find that? Isn't it better that you don't have the crap around you in your body that you're carrying anymore, and you're just doing a preventative measure to make sure that you're operating at the right level?" It's almost like people want to feel shit so that they can feel good.
It's interesting.
What are your thoughts?
Interesting. Well, I can't speak on that client specifically, obviously, because I do not know them. I wasn't there in the experience, but I understand and I relate to the emotions in that story. Because, yeah, like you say, many clients have different expectations. And as you're speaking, I was trying to be active in my listening and trying to clear my mind and not have too many thoughts, but the same repetitive kind of idea kept trying to arise, and it is that relationship between expectation and disappointment. And the more you realize the symbiotic nature of it within the sense of people who live in the future and the past rather than the present, you have less worry around their expression of it because you realize that it's just them and they're overthinking. It's their regulatory system. Because one who has expectation usually is one who looks to the future, right? And they try to evidence it based on what their past, right? So in doing so, often they will have that relationship of disappointment often within their emotional experiences because they have so much expectation. But if you live in the present and just are open and flow, we understand that that is where you can receive more. Because even in the active listening process, I can have clear mind, therefore I can receive more. So in the same process of letting go, let go of control, let go of expectation, you suddenly receive more, right? But like you say, they are chasing something else, which is more immediate in a impulsive sense, which arguably again I can relate to from addiction standpoints, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But this is the point. It's a relationship with oneself, right? And often people confine themselves based on others' expectations again, right? And in the exploration of what I call the ocean of human emotion, like within oneself, this little universe we have that allows us to experience the physical, because 99% of it is just space and
Yep.
energy. Only 1% is really physiological. It's just very interesting that we focus so much on conformity in the physiological. So something like, say, like some of my clients, their parents don't like them putting stuff on the wall, right? But they're
I've got
like
a story about that
autistic,
as well.
they've
Yeah.
got ADHD, and they're trying to work on their expression issues. And we do art stuff, art therapy and whatnot, and then they want to put it all over their wall, and they can't do it. And I really feel bad for them because I can't change their personal environment, and it's such a slow process, and they have to put in a little file for themselves, and they explore it in a different
Oh.
way. But really, they just want to do what you're doing, plaster
Look,
everything.
so I've got.
Sorry, here you
So
go.
no, don't apologise. So I've got a remedy for that, and
Yeah,
a little story about
please,
that as well.
please.
But just quickly back to the expectations. So expectations equals disappointment. It was something that my mum had said to me, and she always said, she goes, "Never have any expectations because you will always be disappointed." And I think that did stem from a lot of her own experiences and just being in the environment that I was in when I was growing up, because it was a very, very weird upbringing to be in a house of 17 people.
Wow.
and just
Wow.
having to share that space. And
I want to bring full circle back to your comments about me and saying, I find him so cool, and I really appreciate the compliments. But interestingly, I do find I had the same feelings about yourself, because when you describe to me certain things of your childhood, I'm like, wow. I look at like everything at like movies. I'm like, that's such an
that was,
interesting
yeah,
movie, right?
that was
I
a
can't I
movie,
can't
yeah.
say which one's better,
Yeah.
Get Rich or Die Trying, or like, like A Beautiful Mind, right? You know what I mean, right? It's like,
You'll
yeah,
definitely
right?
get Rich or Die Trying.
So,
Look, oh, we'll take
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
we'll
We'll
take
get
a
to it. Yeah,
selfie,
right.
people, right? Because I haven't got makeup
Yeah.
on today, so we'll take a selfie and I'll put it when this episode comes out, so you can see what Inayat is. So colourful. Although I do love
Bless you.
Johnny Bravo.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. It's
I
amazing.
do
It's
slash
amazing.
have a crush on him. I know he's very,
This is-
very toxic. His traits. But you know what? Blonde
We'll
hair,
discuss that in
tall,
therapy.
built. I mean, I'm sure he's
That's
blue eyes under there, or green. That's my ideal man, apart from the toxic traits. Sounds like my ex, isn't it?
So back to the point.
So yeah, back to the boy.
Your childhood is very, very interesting for me, because, like, when we talk about the work you do and having the story that you have, then, like you say, being around 17 people in a home, then you talk about, the experience you used to have in your community. That, just for me, it's amazing how it stacks into the story of who you are today, right? So, like I say, as a whole movie is a narrative, I'm involved. I'm waiting for the next episode.
Yeah, no, I was going back to your client who
Yeah.
wasn't able to put stuff on their wall.
Yeah.
My dad was the same. When we were living in the extended house with 17 people, um, we had the top floor, and me and my sister, and at one point my brother was also sharing a room. And then when my brother moved into the room that my granddad used to sleep in, I was going through like my teeny bopper phase. I had pictures of like Leonardo DiCaprio, my first love. I know. Still,
He's a sick actor, yeah. I ain't gonna lie,
I
yeah,
mean, have you seen his eyes and his blonde hair? See, I've got a running theme here: blonde hair, blue eyes. But then, oh no, like I went through the Peter Andre phase as well. All the phases.
It's
Anyway,
gotta be the hair. It's gotta be the hair, isn't it?
do you think?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, because at one point I liked Vin Diesel, and now I'm like, why did I even
Now I'm
fancy you?
confused. Now I'm confused.
It was
but
the
yeah,
muscles.
yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. Anyway, forget who I actually fancy, but I'm talking about I have had posters on the wall, and he comes in and he was like, "No, I don't like these on the wall. You're ruining the wallpaper. Da da da. Take it down. Take it down." And obviously, me being the rebel,
Yeah.
he said, "I can't put it on the walls.
So what did you do?
Ceiling's not a wall."
Love it.
I got the ladder out and I put up, and my dad came in one day.
I love it. Keep going.
They came in to like say goodnight to us.
Yeah.
And so my dad wasn't the most observant person, right? Let's put it this way. I put blue streaks in my hair, right? Bright blue streaks when I was about 17 or 18. And I was waiting for him to say something. And I even go up to him and I went, "Dad, do you notice anything different?" And he looks at my face and goes, "Your wedding makeup, maybe?" And I'm like, "Are you fucking serious? I've got bright blue streaks." But yeah, so my dad's not the most observant person. So I think for about 2 weeks he would come in, say goodnight to us, and go out. And I think he said at one point, because I'm glad you listened to me, like me and you took him off the wall. And I fucking felt so guilty. I was like, he doesn't even know yet. And I think I was chuckling. And then he looked up, and then he didn't say anything to me. He went and said something to my mom. He was like, "Oh, your children, they don't ever listen to me. I asked them one thing, da da da." And he got a bit upset that I'd defied him. But technically, you couldn't say anything because he said, "Oh, why are they on the ceiling?" I said, "Well, you said I couldn't put them on the walls, and the ceiling's not a wall." And he just like rolled his eyes and he just, I can't deal with this right now. Like, because I was that person. I would find loopholes, I would question, I would push the boundaries. Mom and Dad, honestly, I apologise. I'm publicly apologising to you because I know I was a little shit. And I know sometimes I still am, even in my 40s. So,
That's a good confessional, that. Like, 'cause, I mean, it's interesting, when we were young, the child within us, how we view it, and, the way in which we learn emotion, because all of it is just an extension of that, right? The expression of it, whether hidden or openly expressed, it all eventually comes out. And if it doesn't, it usually speaks in a different way through the body. So, like, for instance, I was ill all the time in the initial stage of my life because, like, I was just stressed. And get into that one, another one, skin issues, and all sorts. But the home environment. I was listening to what you're saying, and like certain things, and everyone has their different ethical reasoning, or sometimes it's based upon their own tolerance levels of different issues of control, but their parents will have different reactions to different kids, even within a family. No child experienced the same parent, right?
Yeah, because my brother, being the
Hmm.
youngest and a boy, got away with so much shit, honestly. And it was crazy, man. Like,
My brother would argue that I did, but equally, like me and him got punished badly, unfortunately. But I love my dad to bits. He's one of my best friends. But at the time, he was a very angry man who had learnt behaviors which obviously were not conducive to having a healthy relationship with each other. Because when we defied, as you call it, I said rebel earlier, really it was many of us within our community just felt, as these migrant kids, coming to a Western country, we're with Western kids, we're having a different environment, so therefore we have different thinking, but our family are trying to almost hold on to the exact way in which they were brought up, even the bad parts, right? So my dad used to tell me his mum used to pull his ear all the time, and I was like, well, that's why I used to pull my ear, right? And twist it and like all that stuff, right? When I was little, like 7, right? It hurt, right?
yeah.
But then later on it gets to hitting, and then like belts and this and that, right? And so this is what I'm saying. So when you describe that, if I had done something like that, right? Oh my days, it's over. I can't be clever. There's no clever about it, right? If I've given an instruction, and we're boys, there's only 2 boys, right? And then you can talk about his trauma. My eldest brother passed away when he was only like 14 months, so imagine that was their first child. We weren't born. So when they have 2 kids and they're defying them, can you imagine that emotional regulation? And they're like, these little kids who we've given everything, now they're not doing what we say. And they come from Indian backgrounds where my dad the other day was just saying to me, he's like, I don't think my dad ever hugged me. Oh, my mum. Because just the other day I'm in the kitchen and something my dad said or did was just very nice. And so I just hugged him in it, right?
Yeah.
But for him to express that is like really interesting because, like we're talking about forgiveness, right? When you can forgive yourself for your emotional outbursts and your emotional, like you say, rebelliousness,
Yeah.
right? Equally, you can forgive them for their emotional shortcomings and how they controlled or did things. It's not because I mean, abuse is an interesting word. We throw it around. Like I feel like I had all the abuses, right? But equally, because it was never done from a place of malice or intentional, I want to hurt you, is their lack of control. They were religious, migrant family.
And they
That
were protecting you because as soon as you said that about your eldest
yeah,
brother, I immediately went to now they feel like they need to overprotect their
yeah.
2 children because they lost their first child. And so what you found it as, um, oh, they're so strict. They were just trying to protect you with all of their love, but it came out in a different way. But on that note, oh my God, no, I could sit here and talk. We're going to talk a lot. We are going to talk lots, but I'm going to wrap it up for now because I think
Please.
we've touched on so much stuff. And do not fear because we are definitely going to be doing, like I said, this little mini series, not just on ample therapy and going deep on each of those, what was it, art,
Mental,
mental,
physical,
physical,
life based,
life-based and
and
emotion,
education.
educational slash emotional. So
Yeah.
we are going to come back and do that. But I'm conscious of the time.
Maybe we can end on this, right? Because like we talk about stories and narratives, and at the beginning of this, before we got on the podcast, we talked about name. When I learned the nature of my name, and that first it has depth and multiple meanings through the narrative of time and which language and time period it was used in, right? Essentially, it means inayat, blessings, or one who cares for someone over and over again, right? And when we're talking about therapy for oneself and then being able to be the type of person you are for others, it's essentially that lesson to be able to care for yourself over and over again, even when you make mistakes, fall, etc., and then the ability to do it for others, right? When they are flawed in their nature, right? And then you feel it's a blessing, right? Despite your trauma, despite your pain. And then I found out that the name also has gift within it, right? So there's so many different things, right? I was like, this is
So
this is
cool.
mad. And the way you then take the meaning for yourself in your story, like, oh, okay, so this is all a gift. Everything's a gift because then I can be a gift. And then, yeah, beyond that, like I say, I feel blessed to have met you and to be able to have these conversations and spend time with you because it's always fun and there's also a lot of learning that's done, right? So I appreciate it.
Yeah, right back at you. Ditto, as I would say. But thank you so much. Honestly, like, what's your phrase? Blessings with all the
Yeah,
side dressing.
blessings, blessings with all the side dressings, that.
Yeah. So essentially,
Yeah.
you're just like saying your name.
Yeah, I'm signing off. I'm signing off. Isn't it clever? I mean, I shouldn't give it.
Yeah,
Reveal it.
that's
But
good.
yeah,
I love
it's good.
it.
It's right,
I love
yeah.
it. But we always end on a 1 minute meditation, and I think just from what you said, because of your client, I would like to just dedicate this 1 minute meditation in just silence and remembrance to not just your client, but anyone we've lost. But I feel just having this feeling that we should give this moment to him. I know we can't say the name because of client confidentiality, but listeners, I would please urge you to just take this 1 minute now. If it is safe for you to do so, close your eyes, take a deep breath in through your nose, hold, and then breathe out through your mouth. And just give this minute of silence for the lost souls, for those who've had troubles and are no longer with us. May they be at peace. Okay, take a deep breath in, hold, and then breathe out. Thank you so much, Inayat. I'm going to leave all the links down below so that you can all follow him, support him, and he's just full of ample wisdom. I highly recommend you go and check him out. He's also my vibe tribe and my boy. So show him some love, show him some support, and remember to download, share, like, comment on this episode and this podcast. Do share it with someone that you think might resonate with some of the many things that we've just even briefly touched the surface on. We will have Anaya come back on and we will go deeper into a lot of the things that we've kind of just, like I said, brushed over. But fear not, we'll go a bit deeper in it. But please do share it. It's free. It will help someone. It might make them reach out to Night and book a session with him, which I highly recommend people do because, like I said, he's got a wealth of wisdom, so many things that he can relate. And I think like that's why we resonate well together and we cross over quite nicely together because we can speak from personal experience. And this is the reason I started this podcast because lots of people telling me, "Oh my gosh, like you sound like you've been in a movie," or I think somebody joked, they were like, "You should have your own Netflix show and stuff." And I was like, you know what, I really should because I've had so many amazing, weird, wonderful, scary, crazy experiences. But then I met you, and then we had that conversation at my place, and me and Dips were like, "What? This is like listening to an episode of Top Boy, man." Like I thought I had freaking like crazy near death experiences, but I mean that's another topic for another day. But I wanted to just say thank you, thank you, thank you. Sending you all love, light, and blessings, and we'll see you on the next episode.